All right. Then we have the case of comparing two population means. Now, because I've already explained to you confidence interval, I'm just going to be brief about it and give you an idea. All right. For example, here, the difference is that you will not define one term, you will define two terms, mu b and mu g. You will define two terms, mu b and mu g. These are the two terms that you define. The other thing is that the rest stays the same. That is, you still have all the previous, all the, you still have all the different conditions that you had earlier. Here, let's take this example. You will define two terms, but there things are going to change. Here, same idea. Here, same idea. The assumption will depend on what you learned in confidence interval for two samples. All right. Sometimes you will have to do three assumptions. At times you will have to do only one assumption. So it depends on what you've learned in the case of confidence interval for two samples. Please see the previous video for more information on that. And then the other thing that will change is this. Obviously, this one will be computed according to that. And this one will stay nearly the same depending on whether you are carrying out a test at the 5% level of significance or not. And then you have your conclusion, which is normal. So what are the few changes? The null H naught is such that mu b minus mu g equal to 0. The difference here is you have mu b minus mu g is equal to 0. And then you have mu b minus mu g is equal to 0, which is, you remember last time we have been testing, we have been doing a confidence interval to see if these two are equal or not. But now when you're doing your hypothesis testing, you will state your null to be equal to 0. You're comparing them against an alternative which will depend on the question. It could be not equal to 0, it could be greater than 0, or it could be less than 0. It depends on what the question is. So you will need to have a look at the question. Sorry, I'm writing on the wrong slide here. Let me get back here. So I'm writing on the wrong slide. H naught is such that mu b minus mu g equal to 0, or h1 is such that mu b minus mu g can either be not equal to 0, or it can be equal greater than 0, or it can be less than 0. It depends on what is being asked here. So I leave it to you to find out yourself what it is supposed to be. The other thing is your test statistic. The test statistic, I would like to remind you something. If you look at it carefully, what we did here, when I drawn the test statistic, I used the point estimate. I subtracted the hypothesized value, or the hypothesized value, which is under H naught mu, as divided by the standard error. So what is the general idea for coming up with your test statistic here? You need to find your point estimate, subtract your hypothesized value, but under H naught you will see that it is always going to be equal to 0 based on what we are doing in this course. We are not testing for any other difference except for 0, right? Because we just want to compare them. So we are not testing any difference as such, but comparing them only. So then you would have only the point estimate divided by the standard error. Now, what is going to be the standard error? I leave it to you to determine the standard error on your own. Then it will follow either a normal distribution, or it will follow a t distribution depending on what is given, as whether the sample size are small and the population variance are known, These are the kind of questions that you need to ask yourself. So I'll leave this to you to continue. I just gave you an insight about it. And then the other thing is you will need to state your rejection region. The rejection region is quite simple. It's standard, something very standard that you need to write, depending on whether you are using the normal 5% level of significance will refer to 1.96, just like the confidence interval case, and a 10% level of significance will refer to 1.645, just like we did in confidence interval. We discussed that. So then you will come up with your conclusion whether the two means differ or not, and then you will answer the question directly. All right. So I leave it to you. These are things I'm not going to discuss because we just discussed it in the previous lecture. And then this is something else that I will leave it to you to do. All right. It is based on two sample. So that's a little bit all that I want to do with you right now. So what I would ask you to do is that all these activities that I've given you, I would ask you to do me the favor of posting your I will create a post on Google Classroom for that, and I would ask you to post your activities there. I would ask you to post your activities on Google Classroom. I will have a look at your solution. I will not be looking at all the solutions in the class, but I will pick a few students at random, and then I will check the solution. And if I see that there are any issues that I need to talk about, I will discuss it in the next week when we are going to meet. Otherwise, there won't be any discussion if there is if you are doing it properly. But if you are not doing properly, I'm going to discuss it in the forthcoming week. Right? So I'll just have a look at a random uh, sample, but you will have to submit it on Google Classroom. So that's all I wanted to talk about. So we'll meet next week, and if there is an issue, I'll discuss them. Bye.